Members, we're going to take up these last two members, and then we will recess for the afternoon. Who's gone? Who's on? All right, Senator Taylor. Senator Taylor, you're item number 12, Senate Bill 626. Do I have the right? Is that the right bill?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
All right, members, we're on item number 12, Senate Bill 626. We have an amendment that will make the bill that needs to be considered. So I will get this bill properly before us. I'll move the bill. Is there a second on the bill? Seconded by Stevens and others. We're on Senate Bill 626. We have Finance Amendment number 1, which will make the bill. I will move the amendment, seconded by Senator Stevens. We're on Finance Amendment number 1. Senator Taylor, you're recognized for an explanation of Finance Amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill really speaks to the competitiveness of our airports in Tennessee. Currently, our aviation or jet fuel tax structure really is uncompetitive compared to other states. If you look at Georgia, where Delta Airlines is located, their airlines are exempt from the sales tax. In Kentucky, there's Amazon and some other overnight package company that those of us in Memphis are not allowed to speak their name. They're located in Kentucky, and they have a tax credit against the sales tax in excess of $1 million. And then in North Carolina, where American Airlines is located, they're exempt from sales taxes as well. Currently, Mr. Chairman, the structure that we currently have hinders our effort to be able to grow companies and attract airlines to our airports here in Tennessee. And our current aviation sales tax cap is at $5 million annually. My amendment, Mr. Chairman, will lower the jet fuel tax to $1 million annually via step down. And it'll be in 2 steps. It'll go from $5 million to $3 million from July 23 to June of 24. And then after July 1st of 2024, it would be at $1 million cap on the aviation fuel tax. And Mr. Chairman, in closing, just let me say, Scripture tells us that the greatest place of comfort is in the bosom of Abraham. The second greatest place of comfort is in the governor's supplemental budget.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that other than to say that it is funded in the administration amendment, members line 7.2. You've heard an explanation of Finance Amendment number 1. I want to thank the sponsor. I know the Senate's been working at this for a number of years, and so I want to thank the sponsor for bringing this forward. Is there any discussion on Finance 1? Senator Lamar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sponsor, essentially we're lowering the aviation tax on corporations to $1 million. Am I correct?
On the jet fuel tax to $1 million.
Excuse me, the jet fuel tax. We're lowering it to $1 million?
Lowering the cap to $1 million so that the most any one of the companies would pay would be $1 million in aviation fuel tax.
Well, we're lowering it. This bill lowers it initially to $3 million, and then over time it lowers it down. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So essentially companies like FedEx, Amazon, who makes billions of dollars in sales a year, who take up so much of our runway space in Memphis where we can't get more competitive flights, which make it cheaper for folks to fly out of our airport, will essentially be capped at $1 million. This is more so a comment. I don't think we should be lowering the tax rate on corporations who are profiting billions of dollars and essentially taking more revenue away from the state. I'm not against more companies coming, but they do need to pay their fair share of taxes versus mom and pop companies who do use planes and airlines. They won't have this privilege. So I just think this is putting our values in the wrong place. I'm not about giving billion-dollar companies more tax breaks when they've already barely paid their fair share in taxes in the first place. Thank you.
Sir Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the sponsor, I guess I look at this a little bit differently. I have flown for years out of the Memphis airport and have seen it steadily decline in terms of availability of flights, or at least accessible flights, whereas Nashville and others have really exploded. one of the things that I think that this can provide us is incentivizing airlines to increase flights. I spoke to one major airline just yesterday about that very thing. And as you referenced, in North Carolina, in Kentucky, in Texas, and other places where they have been more competitive, it's not coincidental that airlines have looked at expanding routes in and out of those cities within those states. And so I just see it a bit differently. I see it as an appropriate kind of incentive to give travelers, mom and pops, me, all of our citizens, more choice, particularly in some of our airports, which, unlike Nashville, have really struggled, to have anything but connections to other, major hubs from which to take flights. So I'm going to be supporting this.
All right. Chairman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to add, too, that I'm going to support the bill because I think it improves our competitive posture with neighboring states, as the testimony or the witness, the sponsors testified to the fact that Kentucky and Georgia, I believe, give our substantial help through tax relief, and we need to make sure that we remain competitive. And the reason why I feel like that we should offer this support to this bill is one other factor as well, Mr. Chairman. I believe that companies like, as I believe was mentioned, FedEx and Amazon and others also give employment to thousands of people across the Tennessee, the Mid-South. They also are great community partners, making contributions to many local endeavors. So I'm happy to support a bill that will give them a little bit better competitive posture.
Additional, Senator Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a comment, and over the years, we've decreased this cap that these corporations pay, mainly FedEx, Southwest, some of the bigger corporations, and they're the ones that use our major airports, and we've used this funding over the years for to maintain airports across the state, and decreasing this cap that these major corporations pay is just going to require that we add general fund dollars over the years going forward to maintain our airports, and these companies are not going to be paying their fair share. We're not going to be attracting companies to this state. They're going to come here because of other reasons, and this is just decreasing what these huge corporations pay, and which is not even their fair share to maintain airports. So I don't agree with us decreasing the cap. This $5 million cap has been decreased over the years. I think several years ago it was $20 million they were paying, and we've decreased this, and we've just this year, look at the budget, we have to add general fund dollars to help maintain our airports across the state. So I just don't think this is a good idea to decrease this cap on these, what they pay. Thank you.
Right. Further discussion? Senator Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as a rural legislator, I hear the comments about big corporations not paying taxes, but I also balance it against the small business owners who, through these corporations, give access to new marketplaces by the ability to deliver their products around the world. And so I think I support the legislation on behalf of those small businesses who can advertise online and sell their products online and deliver it to their customers throughout the world.
Further discussion? I see none. Let's see. We've adopted the amendment, right? No, we haven't. Okay. All right. We are on Finance Amendment number 1. All those in favor of Finance 1 will say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. You adopt. We are back on the bill, Senate Bill 626, as amended. The amendment makes the bill. Are we ready to vote? Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
May I close?
You may.
Briefly? I just wanted to address one thing that's kind of been hanging out, and I don't want to leave it hanging out there. FedEx is the largest employer in my home county, and over the last 5 years, FedEx has paid $9 billion in taxes. and their franchise and excise tax in 2023 was $8.7 million. Their sales and use tax was $36.2 million. Their motor fuel excise tax was $2.7 million. And when the federal government made available to companies the CARES Act, FedEx was eligible for payments and loans through the CARES Act, but they did not take those as their competitors did. And so I think it's unfair to say that FedEx is not paying its fair share. And just as Senator Stevens said, this is really not about FedEx or the airlines. This is really about small businesses being able to have access to markets. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would renew my motion.
There we go. We're on 626 as amended. Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Senator Hale. Votes aye. Senator Hensley. Votes no. Senator Johnson. Votes aye. Senator Lamar. Votes no. Senator Powers. Votes aye. Senator Stevens. Votes aye. Senator Wally. Votes aye. Senator White. Votes aye. Senator Yeager. Votes aye. Senator Yarborough. Votes aye. Chairman Watson. Votes aye. Mr. Chair, you have 9 ayes, 2 noes.
Senate Bill 626 as amended is recommended for passage to the committee on the calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And after Senator Yarborough gave me a difficult time last night, I'm glad to see he's in a better mood this morning.